Good afternoon. My name is Diane Kaplan, and I'm President and CEO of Rasmussen Foundation. Just 2 months ago, in a typical household in Alaska, parents would get up, make breakfast for their kids, they'd go to work or school, the mortgage bill or rent would be paid, the utility bill, the car insurance would be paid, they'd shop at a local grocery store, basically live their lives. We're living in unprecedented times. Today, that same family with one or both parents out of work for the first time in their lives is making decisions on whether to pay rent or buy food for their families. People who are lucky enough to still have a job, health insurance, a roof over their head, and plenty of food want to help those who are struggling. Neighbors who have always been self-sufficient, never used a food pantry, or been on unemployment or public assistance, but now are needing help. A few weeks ago, as the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic started gripping the state, I was talking to my colleagues, Nina Kempel at the Alaska Community Foundation and Michelle Brown of the United Way, and we were wondering what we could do about it. We wanted to help, but we weren't sure how. We did know that our friends and families who were still employed and able really wanted to help those who needed it, as Alaskans always do. AK Can Do was born. In just over a week, more than 630 individuals have contributed money to help their fellow Alaskans. A few ground rules for today's event. Members of the media, thank you for joining us. Please use the chat function to ask your questions, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the presentation. You'll notice we are controlling the mute-unmute function at our end, and that's to help just keep distractions to a minimum. I'd now like to introduce Nina Kempel of the Alaska Community Foundation to tell us more about AK Can Do. Nina?
Thank you, Diane. The AK Can Do is a partnership that really is designed to provide relief related to the COVID-19 virus across all the communities in Alaska. It's a partnership between the Alaska Community Foundation and United Way with the support of Rasmussen Foundation, and really is focused on two specific areas and being able to meet the needs across the state. First, to ensure that the nonprofits that serve on the front line in our communities have the near-term and long-term resources to be able to help those who have been impacted by the pandemic across our state. And second, to help families and individuals as they struggle with the basic needs such as paying rent, utilities, and childcare. We are excited about this partnership and have great hopes for what it is becoming and what it even can become. I would like to just thank the Rasmussen Foundation. Diane says it was a conversation with Michelle and I, but Rasmussen really stepped up to provide the leadership to really get this up and going. Not only have they committed $360,000 in resources to start the campaign, but one important thing that they've done, it's been voiced by many of our donors, is that they've covered all admin costs. So every dollar that's donated to the AK Can Do campaign goes directly out in support. And finally, I think it's just a wonderful demonstration of Rasmussen Foundation's leadership and example of their unwavering support for our communities. So thank you, Diane, and your entire team. I just want to give a little bit of an update on the funds raised to date. Thanks to all the generous Alaskans that have come forward and participated in this campaign in some way, shape, or form. We have $1.4 million pledged to support our state during this unprecedented time. The donations have come from 360 different individuals, totaling over $350,000. Individuals are from the donor in Dillingham, Alaska, that contributed $25 online, to small individual organizations that wanted to do their part, to Alaska Community Foundation fund holders who contributed their entire philanthropic budget this year, to Rotary members who are participating, as well as all of those who have donated online. In addition, we have had the very generous support of 10 major organizations across Alaska who have stepped up in a really big way and have contributed over $1 million to the campaign. Diane's going to talk about their their involvement a little later, and you'll hear from some of them individually, but a huge thank you to the leaders in our community, the corporate sponsors that have participated in this campaign. We could not have done all of this without you. So as of today, we have $1.4 million pledged, and it is our objective as part of the AK Can Do to get the money out into the communities as quickly as possible. The impact has been immediate. The impact has been monumental. We have deployed almost $500,000 to date and continue to process additional grants and support out to communities and families as we speak. Over 250 families, 800 individuals have received help to remain stably housed despite losing a job or their businesses closed. We've given them access to food resources, shelters, pantries in ways that may be new and different for some families. In addition, we have provided grants to 25 frontline nonprofit organizations from 15 different communities in Alaska, totaling more than $215,000 in direct funding this week. These were to organizations that are directly involved with domestic violence shelters. We're seeing reports of domestic violence rising and the need to have additional resources for alternative spaces to be able to house the families that need shelter and food. We are seeing multiple child care agencies having new ways and having to deliver their services in a world turned upside down by the coronavirus. And we'll be able to support agencies to make sure that they can stay open and safe for all the families that they serve. And finally, we are making a very big effort to support all behavioral health organizations on the front line that are really the champions and trying to connect with very vulnerable populations during a critical time and having to be very creative and thoughtful on new ways to do that. So we're very excited about the support, both the families and to the nonprofits that are serving a critical need at this time. We are particularly excited to watch how they deliver upon their wonderful missions and continue to support our state. The need, however, is staggering. When we opened up the first application for grants for nonprofit organizations, we expected maybe 100 organizations to apply. We had 308 organizations, nonprofit organizations, say they needed support to address the increased demands on their organizations and to deliver on their causes. The request was for $4.7 million in support. So while we are able to support many of the organizations that are on the front line today, we continue to understand that there is a very big need that we need to continue to fill. I think the ADN reported today that over 660,000 Alaskans have filed for unemployment, 12 times the normal average. So while our city and state may start to reopen, our neighbors and nonprofits are going to need continued help to help the recovery and continue to strengthen our state. There is still opportunities for organizations to apply for grant support. You can do that by going to alaskacf.org and apply if you're an organization that is providing new challenges, that are seeing new faces, that are having connectivity issues. There is availability for ongoing support for that. And if you're a family or a individual who may need help, you can call 211 and they can provide you a list of resources that you may be able to apply for ongoing support. So there's a lot of ways that people can access the benefits that the AK Can Do campaign is trying to create. And finally, if you do want to give, there's an easy way you can do it. You can go to www.akcando.org and give today, and we would encourage all Alaskans that can help their neighbors that now would be a great time to do just that.
Thank you, Nina. Our next speaker really doesn't need an introduction. She's Alaska's rock star chief medical officer and a calming presence who's been guiding us through this COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Ann Zink, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here. And thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. We think a lot about what makes Alaska whole and healthy, and that's not only the physical health, but the mental health, and thinking about all of us together and doing that work. As we continue to look at opening up, we're really discussing a lot about what does this look like long term? What does the summer look like? What does the winter look like? What ways can we be thinking about every Alaskan, every woman, every child, every man, everyone from rural Alaska to urban Alaska, and the ways that we can find ways to normalize this new normal. We know that this pandemic is not going away. We know that this virus continues to be here, and what ways can we find an ability to help support each other. Alaska is amazingly resilient and strong, and as we move from this place of not knowing anything about this disease to learning about this disease, to being able to find strength and resilience moving forward, it's all of us coming together and finding ways to support those who are vulnerable, those who have had to undergo huge transitions, and all of us working together. And so that's why I just really appreciate the support of the Rasmussen Foundation and really all Alaskans finding new ways to care for each other. The number of amazing stories I get to hear every day of people figuring out ways to care for each other, be it not-for-profit organizations and individuals making their own way through, has been awe-inspiring, and seeing Alaska come together. The numbers that we've been able to achieve have been because of Alaskans figuring out ways to work together. And as we continue to move and chart uncharted territory, finding ways to open up, not only do we look carefully at the data and science between what's happened in other countries and some other states, but really what can we do together to find ways to support each other and to find to figure out a way through this fog together. So appreciate the honor of being here and really all the amazing work. And I love the theme of Alaska Can Do, because I really think we can do so much. So with that, I'll hand it back over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zink. I'd like to introduce now Alan Budal, who is Executive Director of Lutheran Social Services of Alaska, one of the people on the ground, on the front lines, helping individual Alaskans get through the pandemic. Alan.
We here at LSSA are distributing rental and utility assistance to those who've lost their jobs or had their hours reduced due to the COVID-19 crisis. We have been working very closely with United Way of Anchorage and receiving most of our referrals from 211. Many of those that we are serving have never had to navigate the safety network of nonprofits. And several have also shared with us that they are paralyzed from the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety that has made it hard for many people to just get by day to day. One person shared with us that she had so many troubles trying to enroll for unemployment that she was so afraid the process to get rental assistance would be the same. She couldn't believe that she had a $1,000 check for her landlord in less than 20 minutes. So she asked Joseph, one of my staff, to please excuse her as she needed this moment to cry. Or the thank you letter we received from a substitute school teacher who also works in summer tourism. She wrote that she was very happy that she didn't have to go to Plan B, and that is put everything into storage and live in her car. We are fortunate that here at Lutheran Social Services, we have a food pantry in site, so we can help those we serve with food and show them how to access the resources for food pantries in our community. Together, we are making a difference for many people and families who have had their lives and their livelihood changed basically overnight due to this coronavirus. I just wish you could see the smiles and hear the thank yous that we are experiencing from those you have helped. I'm thankful that I live in such a caring community and state, and thanks, Alaska, for caring for others.
Thank you, Alan. Before we move on to our last speaker, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a few of the other key partners and financial contributors to AK Can Do. Also, here, many of them with us today, Michelle Brown of the United Way, David Karp of Saltchuk, which has contributed $25,000, Greg Deal with Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has contributed $125,000, Anthony Malott with Sea Alaska, $100,000, Paul Holly with Primera Blue Cross Blue Shield, $50,000, Marilyn Romano and Tim Thompson with Alaska Airlines, $30,000 contributed. Aaron Shutt with Joy Unlimited, $12,500. Bruce Whiting and Lori McCaffrey from KeyBank, $11,500. And Carrie Skinner with Northrim Bank, $10,000. Thank you so much to all of the companies who have come forward, even at times when their businesses are disrupted and their revenues are down, to reach a little deeper and help Alaskans. Now I'd like to introduce one of our corporate citizens. Alaska is so fortunate to have a business community so deeply invested in the people of Alaska. ConocoPhillips supported AK Can Do with a new $200,000 contribution. And speaking today is Joe Marushak, president of ConocoPhillips Alaska. Joe?
Thanks, Diane. When we started out with this discussion, you mentioned that we're in uncharted territory with regard to the impact of the coronavirus on our society and the collateral impacts on individuals. As a business with deep roots in the state, we are very concerned about the ability of Alaskans to make it through this very difficult period. To the extent we can, we want to be part of the effort to create a bridge that will get Alaska through to the other side. We're contributing to the Can Do Fund in part because it was able to quickly absorb money to the organization and nonprofits most in need. The fact that the Can Do Fund is aimed at helping Alaskans throughout the state, not just in one area, is one of the things we were looking for when we were searching for a way to help out those during these difficult times. We structured our grant to the fund in two parts. We wanted to make sure that the fund got immediate infusion of cash and also wanted to provide an incentive for others who may want to contribute as well. That's why we provided a direct $100,000 grant and another $100,000 in matching funds. Finally, we're just very grateful to United Way, the Alaska Community Foundation, and the Rasmussen Foundation for putting a plan in place so quickly to get aid to the Alaskans that need it the most. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Joe. And again, all of the donors, the individual donors who gave anywhere from $5 to a couple of $100,000 to help Alaskans in need at this time. I'd like to turn it over to Angela Cox to handle the questions and answers. Angela?
Hello, everyone. I am turning to the chat box, see if there are any questions from our attendees. It looks like I do have one. How are individuals selected to receive help? Can I pass that over to United Way? Is that you, Michelle Brown?
Thank you for the question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. If people call 211, they can get referred to any of the distribution sites who will have these funds as the funds become available, or to other sites that offer rental assistance. At each of those sites, like Alan spoke at Lutheran Social Services, there will be a quick interview, some supporting documentation, and the goal is to have money out as quickly as possible to landlords and utilities with a very flexible program of verification. I would like to just add caution, though, that the need is far, far outstripping the amount of resources. We are seeing a great demand for this type of rental assistance in particular throughout the state, and we are having a hard time keeping up with it. The goal, although there is federal monies coming in, we really want people, as we approach recovery, to not go back to their jobs with a heavy debt load. So that's why it's really important to help people in this bridge time, people who are really sacrificing their livelihoods to help keep the rest of us safe.
Angela, I would just add on the program grant side, for nonprofit organizations. People can apply through the Alaska Community Foundation website. Organizations can apply, and we really try to do a statewide analysis with input from all regions in the state on where the most critical need is and what organizations are receiving support, how they can, how that support can help them bridge other funding sources, but also how it can actually be applied in their communities immediately. So we have a filter and a lens, and the nonprofits we support, that they ensure that they're able to be able to really distribute those funds as quickly as possible. So on both sides, on the individual and family side and on the nonprofit grant funding side, we're trying to make sure that they are able to distribute those funds immediately and help and impact the people who need it most right now.
Okay. Sean, could we go to Lena? It looks like, is that Lena from Sol de Medianoche? Looks like she has a question about the screening process. Is that possible to unmute her?
She should be unmuted now.
Okay, Lena, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So the reason for my question, even though I already received a little bit of an answer, is because with different programs that have been put together in order to help those that need the help the most, it's on a first come, first serve basis. And what ends up happening is that the people that really need it the most are not really hearing about them or don't know about them. And then by the time they get to apply or to ask for help, the funds are not available anymore.
Michelle, can you help with that, please?
Sure. It is a first come, first serve. We really want to get funds out there without a laborious process where folks are screened and prioritized. I think Alan can tell you what it's like on the front lines. Word of mouth is spreading. As I said, the volume of calls at 211 requesting support is high, and so we serve people as they come in. We try to get the word out as quickly as possible when there are funds available so that all folks who need it can hear about it. But in the crisis mode we're in, it really is not a particularly good way to prioritize who may be the most needy in a time when there is so much need from so many people.
Okay, I would like to now move to Erin from the Fairbanks Daily News Miner.
Hi,
Erin, are
thank
you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm just wondering how nonprofits are selected to receive funding. I understand it's an application process, but how is the need calculated?
Well, thanks for your question, Erin. This is Nina with the Community Foundation. The nonprofits were asked to put together a very, very basic grant application. It asked 4 questions. None of them were meant to be potential barriers for any organization to apply. They were evaluated across multiple different lenses. Geographic diversity was one of those lenses. We do want to make sure this is a statewide campaign and that funding and support are going to all the communities across Alaska. So I mentioned that 15 different communities received support. The basic need, we asked each of them what they would be using their funding to support through to help during the COVID-19 crisis. But we did not put constraints on specific dollar values. We wanted them to be able to use this for operations to best serve the populations that need it the most. And so it really was a self-reported need. But we did go through all 308 applications and really assess where we thought we could have the most impact. That said, the grant process to the nonprofit organizations is evolving. The $215,000 that we just awarded out this week is the first step in many. We anticipate giving out another round of funding in 2 weeks. So any organization that's interested in applying can either reapply and update their current application, and or new organizations can apply as well and be put on the list to be considered. But it is conducted by a small advisory group of funders in our state, and we are with the goal of trying to help the organizations that sort of need the most here and now funding and can help us get it out the door and support the individuals and families that need it most.
Nina, can you talk about one or two of the groups that receive funding and why they were selected?
Sure, I can talk about one organization that received funding. They are a domestic violence shelter who are seeing a lot of new faces coming into their facility, and faces that are having to come in under new barriers of distress. Just getting to the domestic violence shelter is a challenge, getting there with their children. And then once they get there, some of them need to be quarantined for up to 14 days. So there's additional need for hotel space, for additional places for families to be able to be in quarantine by still safely getting the services that they do at the domestic violence shelter. And then sort of another example of that, and the shelter staff are having to actually adjust as well, because now the children are, some of the children that are in these shelters are not in school anymore. They're having to reprioritize activities for the kids to stay focused on educational options. And that's something new that the domestic violence shelter is having to address that they have not in the past. So new challenges and new faces, creating a need for additional resources to support those efforts. Another one is THREAD, a childcare organization that supports statewide. And really what the need that was given, the resources that were given there were to support THREAD in helping all organizations across the state related to childcare keep their doors open and keep their doors available for those families that need it during this critical time, and to help think about advocacy on a greater level around childcare, the importance of childcare during these times, and support the statewide network of childcare organizations that are really facing entirely new challenges as they know it.
Okay, to try to keep us to our 30-minute schedule, I'm going to go to Lexi with the last question. We may have covered some of it, but Lexi, to make sure we've answered your whole question, do you want to chime in?
Hello, hi, it's Alexis Fernandez with Channel 2 News. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Wanted to just ask if is there any specific requirements that Alaskans have to meet in order to get financial help?
Michelle, would you please respond?
Yeah, they have to have been recently furloughed, laid off, or their business shut down in response to COVID. This is not for past debts or anything like that. It is for people who have directly been impacted economically. And they really they prove up their rental agreement or the mortgage agreement or their utility bill. That's verified. And then assistance is given as a payment to their landlord, for instance, or to the utility.
All right, thank you, Michelle. With that, if there are any additional questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box and we will do some follow-up with you. I'm going to hand it back to Diane Kaplan for closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. I'd like to thank everybody who participated today, all the very generous Alaskans, companies, individuals, foundations, organizations. This is a very Alaskan thing to do. We have always helped each other. We've never had a crisis like this one. It's people who have never needed assistance before, but if all of us pitch in with akcando.org, we can relieve the suffering of many of the people who work around us, live around us. So thank you very, very much. Thank you to Chief Medical Officer Zink, United Way, and Community Foundation. And any further questions, please continue to forward them and we will get back to you. Thank you so much.